Hello and welcome back to OtakuDaiKun. This is my first ever vertical live session, live stream. Depending on the performance, it may be my last. I've been hearing that this new feature allows your stream to be found in the shorts feed. So if you guys found that, that's awesome. Hopefully it opens up to a whole new group of people. I'd love to hear your chats. For this will be a discussion stream as opposed to playing video games like I normally do. I have a very interesting topic, a very profound one, and a long discussion for us to go on. Basically, do we really want robotic girlfriends? It's an interesting idea. But yeah, so I'm going to get started with that. And at any given moment, feel free to ask questions, hop in, say anything, and we'll see how that goes. But basically, and I know this is an impromptu stream for anybody who's subscribed. Part of this is a test to see how many people are discovering the channel exclusively through the live feed and everything. So if you're here from the live feed, let me know. You see both positives and negatives to that topic? Absolutely. Basically, what made me want to think about this, why it's been dominating my mind, is that, anime fantasizes and romanticizes robo-girlfriends. Some of my favorites do it. Steel Angel Kurumi, Mahoromatic, I Dream of Mimi, Chobits, Plastic Memories, Armitage the Third, all sorts of awesome stuff. Yeah, and a lot of cyberpunk stories also deal with that. Blade Runner is probably one of the biggest. Especially the sequel. What is it, 2049? I'm not sure which the title is, but yes. In the television show Archer, we've got Krieger, a goofy mad scientist who has his own hologram waifu, which is funny, for sure. Yeah. So that's what we're starting off, but again, this is a large, think of it like a lecture almost. I've been writing the past 3 hours, this long section. It's not going to take 3 hours to go through, but it took me that long to write all my ideas down. But yeah, as we go through the stream, come up with other examples of fictional works that romanticize the artificial girlfriend. Another thing to note here is that I'm going to be talking about in terms of guys finding AI girlfriends, but in truth, this can be anybody, any combination of people. It can be a girl finding a robo guy, a guy finding a robo guy. I don't care. Gender's not important. Sexuality is not important. I don't know the SpongeBob reference, personally. That would be kind of crazy. You support and agree the idea of AI and female robots as long as female robots are only loyal customers, and government as long as we use the consumers know the password to activate. Well, yeah, that's definitely true. And we're going to get to all of your thoughts, including the whole consumer issue, the consumer dilemma right there. Wow. Yeah, because you would not want the government to take advantage of your robo-girlfriend and use it against you or anybody, a corporation even, either. But yeah, we tend to, in fictional works, see the robot characters as, benevolent, really good. We love our robo characters. We see them as beloved members of the cast, just like anyone else. Very rarely are the girls being artificial being a bad thing. It's very rarely a bad thing in these stories. Yet, in real life, that's not necessarily the case. We've got AI being extremely prolific as of late, and we're more skeptical than ever. Yeah, my life as a teenage robot. Yep, that's certainly true. Heaven's Lost Property, that's a good one. I need to watch that one still, though. Isn't that the one where in the credits it's like tons of panties falling from the sky? Something silly like that. But yeah, and then we also tend to mock people who get really intimate with inanimate objects or characters, things like that. Like, we see it as weird or creepy. So there's a guy who ceremonially married Miku as a character, even though she doesn't exist. And the same thing, there's a guy who married the girl in his 3DS game. I don't know what the name of the game is, but if you remember that, let me know. Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go. What a crazy name. But yeah, there's a guy who married his 3DS. We tend to make fun of that, look at that, and see it as weird. So, what the question I want to ask is, do we really want these robot girlfriends? Do we want them in real life? Or is it just a fun aspect of our fiction? I mean, you know me. I'm more than happy to let fiction stay fiction. Yet, technology's getting really, really good, and we all might want to give this some real thought. Like I said, though, this applies to guys and girls. Doesn't have to be robot girlfriends, but because the fantasy is typically of the robo waifu, we're gonna go with that terminology going forward. Just know that at any time, it is interchangeable. That was a Love Live game? Really? I don't know about that, though. It didn't look like that. I thought it was specifically a dating sim game, whereas Love Live games tend to have, like, the whole music concert aspect of it. We live in a society where each day people becoming cold that I don't blame people for being attracted to fictional characters or falling in love. Yeah. One of my first thoughts is that oftentimes it's easier for us to accept fictional robots because everyone else in that story is already fake. I mean, you're suspending your disbelief for the fantasy story or whatnot that you're into already, or the sci-fi, so having a robot as a party member isn't that hard for us to conceive. But in reality, though, can we love something that isn't conventionally alive? Can we truly, earnestly love it? To start, we gotta ask, is it possible to love something that doesn't exist? I don't think so. Because if it doesn't exist, we can't even imagine it. Even fictional characters exist as concepts. And we're plenty capable of loving a fictional character, but again, that's something we conceptualize. If it doesn't exist at all, we can't. So, probably the closest thing we could possibly love is ourselves. Love Live is a pretty fun franchise. I like Idolmaster more myself. It just comes down to which waifu you like most. But, yeah, can you love yourself? And the answer is yeah, you obviously have self-preservation. You want to look out for your own self-interests, but the love you have for yourself usually isn't romantic. Not the same way as we think of, like, two partners loving each other. If Robot Girlfriend is advanced as Detroit Become Human, I wouldn't mind a Robo-Girl. You're disabled like Carl, and having a Marcus Kara would help both with emotions and basic needs. Interesting. Well, I'd be live streaming Nikkei. I will next week. Next week is going to be my Nikkei stream. But yeah, one thing to understand before we can really love ourselves: the dead technically don't exist, except you have a concept of the dead and who they were before they died. So if you're in love with someone who is passed on, you're loving the concept too. And we'll get to that. That's kind of interesting. That they're not alive anymore. You don't want to have a robot girlfriend, but lately it seems it might be the only way to get one who will treat you decently. Yeah, that's a contentious one. That's crazy. I mean, yeah, well, we're gonna get to the appeal of a robot girlfriend much later. But first, we need to talk about the self. It's an important topic that's going forward into this. It's a difficult philosophical issue. Do you consider yourself your mind? Your consciousness? Do you consider your body a part of who you are? Some people believe in a soul. I don't. Oh yeah, Melfina from Outlaw Star is an android. She has, like, bio components, but so does, like, Blade Runner. Like, replicants aren't, like, pure machine, right? They're, like, some bio tissue in there as well. They're artificial, and I guess that's the more important part. Give me a Yuyuko Saigyoji and or Cinderella Nikkei Gynoid, and my answer will be yes. Dude, that new Nikkei, event is phenomenal. I do plan to stream that next week, because the story just blows my mind, but we'll get there. For now, we're talking Robo-Waifu. But yeah, what do you consider to be part of who you are? I mean, if you're a trans person, you don't necessarily consider your body a representative of who you are. Let's say you aspire to be an athlete, or someone who's like a really good dancer, or you just want to be active, but you have injuries or illnesses that you didn't choose, they're not your fault, you were born that way. You know, do you consider that part of your identity then? Some people don't. The self is really complex, but at the very least, we can tell we do have a sense of self, simply by asking, who am I? It proves that we can distinguish between things that we consider part of us and things that are separate. Nikke are robot waifu. They are human brains put into robot bodies. And that's one of the possible things we'll get to. But yeah, so we have a sense of self simply by asking, who am I? And we might not love ourselves romantically. I was telling you that I recommend Love Live isn't bad, though I prefer Idolmaster, or even D4DJ. I tend to prefer those, but they're all pretty good. Yes, if there's a human brain, we tend to call it a cyborg, and that's going to come into the whole free will debate, which we're getting to. But yeah, in Ghost in the Shell, you just pop brains into bodies too. They have a cyber brain, but that's just like a casing around the actual brain. But anyway, we don't love ourselves romantically, but the next thing I think of, in the most primordial level of loving something artificial, would be an imaginary friend. Most of us had imaginary friends as kids. They exist in our minds, but they only consist of what we know or imagine. So it's limited by our experience. The more you know about the world, the more detailed and a separate consciousness you can make. But that's what it is. It's a part of our own mind that we isolate and section off like it's a separate being. And at the same time, we create these imaginary friends to help stave off our loneliness, to make ourselves feel better. In general, that's what our imagination lets us do. It lets us feel an emotional attachment to inanimate objects as well. When we project our imagination onto things for our own comfort. What about puppets? Are they too robot? Like your fate? Oh, well, if you're talking like karakuri or automaton, they're the same thing. Robot girlfriend, it's the same idea, they're artificial. The consciousness is presumably artificial. And there's all sorts of ones. Yeah, Ghost in the Shell is awesome. If you haven't seen my waifu files on cyberpunk anime, I highly recommend you do. While I'm at it, there's been an issue with notifications on YouTube, and I just realized, you know, one of the only ways you can know for sure whenever I'm going live, in fact, I should do this. I forgot to notify my own damn Discord. Let me do that real quick. I'm gonna live stream everybody there. Most spiritual cultures believe the body, mind, and soul to be connected. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not so keen on defining one particular type of sense of self right now. He married Nanate from Love Plus. That I do remember. Okay, Love Plus. Thank you, Sogai. Thank you so much for joining. The YouTube memberships are how I stay in business. It really is my lifeblood, so I totally, absolutely appreciate every membership that comes by, whether it's $1 or whether it's the $50 where you can request. Let me notify my Discord real quick that I am streaming. Hopefully they'll come to the rescue, bolster the numbers. Hey everyone. Wham! Let's hope that works. Because at least on Discord, you can be guaranteed the notification. Whereas on YouTube, not so much. And again, I'm testing vertical live streams out to see if it attracts a new audience to my channel. But so far, I recognize y'all. Y'all my main notification squad. So we'll keep it up either way. I prepared this for you because it's a very fun topic. Alright, my Discord has been notified. Hopefully, we'll see a boost in numbers. Am I going to roll for Cinder or Grave? Cinder? You mean Cinderella. I already rolled for Grave. I got her, and I love her. She's a muscle waifu. She's very good. A backshot of the Avatar? Huh. No one's ever asked that. Let me see here. How can I do that? Maybe I should stop dancing him around. And then turn him back around again. Am I aligned now in the middle? Yep, cool. That works for me. You asked, you got it. Back onto the discussion. We're talking about projecting our imagination onto imaginary objects, or, sorry, inanimate objects. Gyat! V is still a person with robotic enhancements? I don't know who that is. Which V are we talking? You never thought about how I look from the back? Yeah. But probably the primary example I have of our proof of being able to, you know, fall in love with or have an emotional attachment to a robot, or sorry, an inanimate object, would actually be the film Castaway. If you haven't seen it, in that film, Tom Hanks's character, he gets stranded on an island. And to feel companionship, he invents Wilson, pretending that a volleyball is his friend. It's a volleyball, and he projects himself onto it. Are you talking about Cyberpunk the game? Oh, okay. I only know Cyberpunk Edge Runners characters. And he genuinely cares about Wilson. It's a compassionate little story there, and his compassion is proven when he's trying to make his escape at sea, and Wilson drifts away. It floats away on the ocean, and he feels devastated. It's a good movie, but why should he feel devastated? Technically, Wilson's always been in his own mind. To me, I think that shows that we have a desire for external input. Even if something's all in our head, we want to interact with our own imaginations, and having something outside of that validates it. Can we get a new Discord invite link posted? I've tried the ones in the descriptions of your recent stuff, and none of them have worked. I don't know, man. It's the same link as always, I could have sworn. Let me check. Is there a way to easily just grab my link, invite people? Get the link, copy the link. And if I paste the link, voila, into the chat, hopefully it will work. The thing is, can you have sex with the robot? Presumably so. And we'll get there. Jenny Wakeman? I don't know who that is. My ideal robot girlfriend is Penny from Ruby. Ah. Yes, unfortunate what happened to her, but she comes back. That's one of the benefits of a robot girl, is they can come back from the dead. But yeah. So if we need external input, I think that fictional characters are a step up from imaginary friends. And the reason why is because somebody else made that character, and we're enjoying it as an outsider. And that kind of forces us to appreciate the character for who they are, or how they were written. You know, we didn't design them. And as a result, they're introducing us to ideas that we didn't come up with on our own. And in that regard, it's just like interacting with a real person. It has that same quality to it. They're not real. And one of the sad things about that is they're limited by what can be scripted ahead of time. Your favorite character probably is not going to be there for you for your entire life. Your life as a teenage robot? Yeah, somebody noted that as well. Why is Fate lore so difficult to understand? Because it's long, there's just so much of it, and it compounds on itself previously, and it likes to make a lot of internal references. The basics aren't hard to understand, but when you try to dig deeper, Nasu makes it harder and harder. But yeah, like for example, if your favorite character is from a TV show, you can watch that show over and over again. But it's not going to present you with any new stimuli. At best, you'll just better understand the text as it was made, the TV show, the character. But there's nothing new. Eventually, you're going to run out of content, and you'll be waiting for more. And in the meantime, you're more than likely to compensate with your imagination. That's when you try to predict what the character would do in different situations. That's what fanfics and fan art are all about. It's just like your imaginary friend at that point, except that the starting point for your relationship was not determined by you, but everything else was. It was determined for you. So I'm going to go off of this character preset that somebody else made. You know, if Saber were my waifu, I'd imagine what it would be like if I were with Saber. Knowing that Saber is King Arthur and that she's gone through these experiences, but at the same time, has the strange fake opening come out? A new one? I don't think I have. If it's brand new, then no. Saw the title and the answer is yes. Definitely, obviously. That's cool. But again, we're looking into the nitty-gritty of whether that's truly what we want. But yeah, you'll eventually run out of content for your fictional character and supplant that lack of content with your own imagination. And there are some people who, at that point, don't really give a crap about the original character. They just want to run with their own headcanon. You know? People love taking characters and reinventing them. Whether it's accurate to their original personality or not. There's nothing wrong with that, but we're also straying from our goal. Presumably, the perfect robot girlfriend isn't just something in our head that we're pretending. We want them to actually exist and provide us with external stimuli. What are your opinions of Japan creating female robots? This whole video and this discussion will answer that for you. The big question is it just something fun that we like in fiction? Or is it really viable? What if your AI or robotic girlfriend develops feelings for someone else? That's a very good, important question. You would presume that they wouldn't, because they're programmed, but we're going to start talking about the possibility of an AI having free will and what that looks like. But yeah. The other thing is, a lot of our favorite fictional characters don't actually interact with us at all. We're just watching them like a fly on the wall. We're seeing their stories unfold, and maybe injecting ourselves in there a little bit, but they don't actually interact. Video games, however, do try to simulate that interaction, which takes things another step further. That said, even video games are limited to the amount of content that exists. You can only talk to an NPC so many times before it starts repeating dialogue, and that immediately breaks your immersion, to an extent. Even dating games are limited to game mechanics, things like trivia or giving gifts. Knowing what to say or do in a given situation is part of dating, but it's very rarely are you going to go on a date and choose from multiple choice options. Basically, the game is controlling the interaction and not you. And that's what limits it there. Eventually, then, you'll still come to rely on imagination. Therefore, when we've got the guy who's dating the girl in his Love Plus video game, he's not dating the console itself, but rather the girl in the game. Just like any dude who brings around his body pillow to like a restaurant and pretends like it's another person. The darker side of imagination, of course, is delusion. So hopefully these guys know that they're not actually interacting with anyone else. And even they would be more interested in a more immersive simulation, at the very least. What if the robot during Smex breaks your D? Well, that sounds like a manufacturing issue, a potential lawsuit in your favor. Depends on whether you were using it the way you were supposed to, though. There's probably a terms and conditions with your AI robot when you purchase it, or however you obtain it. Think of Megan from Megan. I heard that movie was actually fairly decent. Video games are supposed to be interactive mediums with only some story. It depends. There's all sorts of different types of video games. Some are more interactive than others. Some have lots of story, some have none. Some you can use as escapism, and others you can't. But yeah, so what we want to do is have more immersive simulation from an artificial intelligence. Something where we can actually guide the interaction and not just follow a script. We need something with an unending supply of responses. And for that, that's where AI comes in. We're not fully there yet, but we're getting close. AI chatbots, ChatGPT, those sorts of things, they're getting better and better. The complaints we have are going to go away eventually. That was weird. And it turns out there are actually chatbots right now built specifically for dating. Although there's lots of room for improvement. How to tell is real, or what is real, or what is fake. We're gonna get there too. That's an important aspect. But in general, if you take one of these AI, if it's advanced enough, and you pair it with a virtual avatar, with a synthetic voice, you're finally getting pretty close to those anime fantasies. Sometimes that's all they're interacting with, is like a hologram or something. If you stick that in a robot body, then you're getting even closer. Women in Western society, modern women and feminists, are so scared and panicking of AI for our robot girlfriends. Are they panicking or are they making fun of us? It's an interesting thing. And do they have every right to? We'll see. We're getting there. Again, I'm pretty open-minded to this whole thing, so I'm willing to entertain your thoughts. The thing is, though, no matter how advanced our AI gets, AI of this type can never be truly real. It's just a computer pretending to act real, but it doesn't actually love you back. For some, that might not matter. To others, that might be everything. With this type of AI, though, our current goal isn't necessarily to make a girlfriend that's real, but one that is effectively real. Would you cream pie into a robot woman? Probably. If you cream pie into, like, an Ona hole, it's the same idea, right? But anyway, yeah, we want something that is effectively real. That means, for all intents and purposes, it gets the job done by providing you the emotional fulfillment you want. It may not be a real girlfriend, it may not be a real person, but it could get the job done either way. To understand what effective realism might look like, we still have to look at effective randomness. In our world, there are very few things that are truly spontaneous. Most things we describe as random are merely a complex chain of cause and effect. Things like dice, flipping a coin, shuffling cards, even computer algorithms, those things are predetermined. With enough observation, it's possible to calculate the outcome. From the moment a coin gets flipped, you could determine its trajectory and make a solid guess whether it'll land heads or tails. Yeah, the guy who married Miku is an example as well. And we just talked about that. That would be somebody supplanting the lack of content in the relationship with their own imagination. Essentially, Miku has become their imaginary friend that someone else had pre-designed. But yeah, if you're card counting at a casino, they're going to consider you a cheater. The game is meant to be random, but you're ruining the randomness of it. Are you a white dude with the BBC Jews? What do you mean? Me? IRL? I don't know what you mean by that. And BBC Juice? As in the splooge? I don't know what you're referring to there. The guy did self-end what his girlfriend AI told him. In fact, Dawson, I'm going to get to exactly that. The grammar was awful, but I understand what you were trying to refer to, and it's actually part of my plan. But we're getting there. There is a plan to all of this. But anyway, the thing is, we still use dice rolls and coin flips and cards because they're effectively random. Most of us aren't that observant. And between people who are both blissfully ignorant, it works just fine. So long as nobody involved knows the outcome, that outcome is functionally the same, whether it's truly random or not. You know what I'm saying? The same can then apply to AI, where effective realism would be the point at which it no longer matters whether the AI is real. If you talk to it like it's real, and its responses are convincing enough, then it might as well be real. At the very least, your side of the interaction will be genuine. I mean, nowadays that's harder because AI is everywhere and we're more skeptical. But imagine taking that AI into the past, like in a time machine on a laptop. Back then, where people still wrote letters to pen pals and such, you could use the AI to respond back to a pen pal for their entire life, and they would never know that they weren't actually writing to a real person. Sure, they might get pissed off once they learn the truth, but if they remained blissfully ignorant, there wouldn't be a problem. And you could certainly say that while they were interacting and they thought it was a real person, their feelings were sincere. You don't know about robot AI, but the hologram like Blade Runner 2049, then yes, you wouldn't mind, but of course for temporary. And there's something really cool about that relationship in that movie, but it's also fairly tragic too. I rate waifus so you don't have to. No, I welcome you all to rate your own waifus. I just want to show you my favorites. One of the things that's important to achieving effective realism is being unable to tell whether someone is real or an AI. And it's a common theme in cyberpunk works. In the original Blade Runner, you have to put a replicant through a test just to determine if they're a replicant or not. Or you might have to. The main character, Deckard, who's supposed to hunt replicants, might actually be one and not even know it. That's part of the story, that's why one of the cool things, yeah? Yes, this is an impromptu stream, I'm testing the algorithm for vertical lives. Seeing if more people will join. I heard thousands could join, because all of a sudden we'd be getting access to a new audience. So far, we're doing okay. I'm gonna keep up at it. The Nostalgia Critic Sailor Moon video. I haven't seen that in ages. You might have to remind me. Raul, what would you say if she was like 2B from Nier Automata? Yeah. And that's a case where robots are falling in love with each other. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. But yeah, there are VR games right now where the goal is to blend in amongst other AIs so that the AI can't tell you're a human. And I'm sure in the opposite scenario, you could have an AI mixed in with a bunch of humans and they can't tell which one the AI is. Eventually, the distinction is going to get smaller and smaller. But let's say at the same time, we don't want them to be real. We want them to be real enough that it gives us the good feels that we need, the comfort and companionship that we've wanted. In those cases, we just extend our suspension of disbelief. And at that point, even an effectively real girlfriend is gonna do the job just fine. For some other people, though, that's never going to work, no matter how realistic it seems. Why? Because these AI are programmed to love you. It's not a choice they make of their own free will. They don't actually desire you. You can tell a person truly loves you when you realize they could just as easily not. Saying yes is meaningful because no was also an option. An action game, binary domain, I haven't heard of that. Here's another question. If we have robo-girlfriends, do we own the product? Depends. That's a question that we'd have to figure out. Right now we're just talking about the base idea. And we're gonna get to that, yeah. Does your robot rely on a server? That's important. The Sailor Senshi are supposed to be inspired by sailor uniforms and ice skaters. Yeah. Detroit Become Human was a great game that covers a lot of this discussion. That's cool. That's very cool. Do you use VR to spend time with your waifus, Dai? I'm looking at you, VR hentai. I don't use a VR headset because it makes me motion sick. Otherwise, I'd probably be a lot more into it. But I hate nausea above all else, and ugh, that's my big problem. So I prefer them to stay on a screen or have some kind of a physical body that I could interact with. But yeah, no, that's probably the first thing. We would more likely see robots and artificial girlfriends take full form in a virtual environment than they would in robotics. But the thing is, yeah, we can make an AI girlfriend that's hard to get. We can make our ideal tsundere who emotionally abuses us as a kink. But that's just an act. It's still always going to be an act. A computer can even form its own sense of self, at least enough to distinguish itself from its user, but that's not the same as having free will. There's this really cool video that I saw on YouTube where a guy teaches an AI how to play Tomb Raider and actually identify as the character of Lara Croft in the game. It's able to recognize Lara's 3D model as its own body, and it can have spatial awareness and play the game that way, which is pretty cool. Punishing Grey Raven, yeah, that's another example. Will every AI robot need a mini nuclear reactor or a Tesla charger? I don't want Tesla designing my robot waifu, despite Musk saying crap about trying to make cat girls real. Chobits is a fantastic example. In the anime, I Dream of Mimi is like a more adult version of that. And it's also very wholesome. You know, and that's just one of those cases where we look at Chi and we don't think for a second that she doesn't deserve love. Or that she can't love you back or whatnot. And we assume she has free will, which is crazy, because does she? Or is she genuinely attached to the first person that gets to her? In Steel Angel Kurumi, the girls are bound to love the person that wakens them with a kiss. And the main character Nakahito accidentally kisses Kurumi. And Kurumi doesn't want anyone else to love Nakahito, so when they awaken her sister Saki, Kurumi kisses Saki, turning her into a lesbian, which is crazy. So that's like halfway between free will and not, where the person you love is determined by some weird factor like that. If the government abuses AI, then Terminator will be there. Yep. That's something we'll get to as well in this discussion. What if cat girls became real, like in anime? Well, they would probably be robots then, right? I don't actually want to sleep with a cat. I own cats as my pets. They're sweethearts. Well, you say it's an act, Daikun, but if you program to do one thing, that's love in the way that you want it. Again, it's effective realism, but it's not true free will, because the machine could not say no. But yeah, so there's this cool video where a guy teaches Lara Croft, or an AI, to play as Lara Croft and identify as her, but at the same time, we could not say that that AI wanted to be Lara. It doesn't want to complete the video game. At the same time, though, it doesn't not want to play. It's completely indifferent. They follow a procedure to achieve their goals. But those goals are still defined by us. Well, it's the spiritual power of the kiss, but then what about the whole Saki situation? Yes, she needs a kiss from somebody who has spiritual power. You're absolutely right. I forgot about that. Do your girlfriend or people you know of use AI? Depends on... AI is an extremely broad term. Are you trying to interact with an AI as if it were a person? At the moment, no. Although I think my wife's dabbled in character AI, which we will get to that. It's fun for writing in ChatGPT and other things. Yeah. Kurumi had spiritual power herself, thanks to her unique angel core. Which is cool. I love Steel Angel Kurumi. That was probably one of my first... That was where I really started to get interested in romance stories and getting out of my cootie phase. But yeah, so we're talking about free will, and where does free will come from? I mean, humans are decent at procedural thinking too. We can set a goal for ourselves and work toward it rationally. We can ignore our feelings once we set a goal, but the big difference is that we set our own goals. And the primary motivation for those goals, whether we like it or not, is emotion. AI girlfriend to help you win casino games? Possibly. That might be one of the perks, is that they can do things humans can't. But yeah, in other words, we feel things. I think that our ability to feel pleasure and pain is what facilitates the variety of bodily sensations and emotions that make us up. Therefore, if you want a machine to have free will, you'll have to give it a similar feedback system. But why do we feel pleasure and pain? It's a product of our evolution, really. It's a method of curbing our behavior so that we live longer and produce more children. Take fire, for example. If you jump into a fire, you're gonna burn to death. To stop you from doing that, your body feels pain when it gets too hot. Not wanting to feel any pain, you step away from the fire and you don't get burned. At the same time, though, being too cold can kill you. Likewise, we've evolved so that the cold also hurts us. As a result, we find a nice distance from the fire that establishes equilibrium. Yes, I might even put the Heaven's Lost property in a potential video for waifu files on Robo Waifu. That's ultimately what I want to do after this, where after we talk about the nitty-gritty and the philosophy of it and whether we'd really want this kind of thing, we can go back to our fantasies and just have fun with it. Also, you know, sexual intercourse feels good so that we're encouraged to reproduce. Put bluntly, creatures that don't enjoy smashing are less likely to smash. And then their species dies out as a result. It's worth noting that the human mind, though, is really complex. What causes us pleasure and pain can be altered through experience. Something that's supposed to feel good might traumatize you based on something that's happened, and vice versa. You can acquire a taste for something. What makes you happy may not make me happy. Regardless, though, we can say that our sensations form the basis of our free will. If you ever find a human who has never had a sense of pleasure or pain, they don't have any desires. They'll be indifferent to anything that happens to them. And all they would rely on then are instincts. They'd be no more than a biological machine. But if they made a new race of cat girls and guys, I don't know. It's kind of the same thing as the robot waifu. You could customize your waifu to have ears and a tail or not. AI robot will be made with Legos. I mean, you'd need a computer to control the Lego pieces, but yeah, you could make the body. You wouldn't want to step on them, though. In Soviet Russia. You'll not step on Lego. Lego steps on you. I love it. I love it. Okay, but yeah. Thus, to make a machine feel more human, you would have to give that machine pleasure and pain. Imagine if your computer felt something akin to nausea whenever it got a virus. And what if it felt better after running a virus scan? Imagine if your computer felt orgasmic from you using its keyboard. The computer might just find ways to get you to type more, or use certain keys more than others. You know, if we take all of that to its extreme, a robot with a humanoid body could feel all the same sensations we do, and therefore their will would probably be pretty similar to our own. But is that a good idea? We'd be playing with forces that are normally decided for us. I mean, humans don't like feeling pain. We only endure it if we know there's a greater pleasure coming in the long run, like the discipline of exercise. We feel fatigue so that later on we'll feel refreshed and capable to do other stuff, you know? Well, offline, we're talking about human viruses then, like bacterias and other things. Computers can get them, we can get them. They all do that stuff. The question is, though, how much pain do we need? Do you recommend that I should watch or read both read and watch Chobits? I've only watched Chobits, and I like it. It's a good show. It's very good. Are we ready for robot or niet? I'm assuming it was written that way to make me read it that way. Frugino? Who's Frugino? I know Fujino. Anyway, but yeah, how much pain do we actually need to have our sense of free will? I mean, we do need, to an extent, pain to appreciate the pleasure. Sometimes pain is the lack of pleasure, the comfort of being in a neutral state. But that doesn't mean we can't strive to minimize that pain. We don't look at somebody who's suffering on the street and be like, hey dude, it's just part of life, you just gotta deal. We might try to help them. I mean, we try it all the time. We have pain medications for that very reason. It's why people get put under for surgeries, because we know it's gonna hurt, but we also know it's gonna benefit you in the long run. We can overthink the feedback loop that our bodies have been given. The thing is, we don't usually choose how much pain we feel, and we're always trying to minimize it. It's in our nature to do so. So how can we decide how much a computer should feel? As a robot's creator, we'd be fully in charge of that. And that brings up an even bigger issue. Did I play Nier Automata? I did. I enjoy it. I like Stellar Blade more, but they're both good. And yeah, 2B would count as a robot girl with full free will. Definitely able to feel pain and sorrow and all that stuff. She just got an artificial body. It's one of those people you consider to be just as real or human as a human, or even superior, because they're not going to die like a human. If they die, they can immediately back up their brains and then go find their corpse again and pick their loot. So that's definitely one example of a robo girlfriend in that regard. But yeah, the thing though is, the big issue with making a machine that feels, I mean, I'm an atheist. I don't believe that there's a God who created humanity. But even if there were such a being, we're not able to just walk up to him and ask him about our designs. The best we can do is maybe talk to a priest, who will then tell us that God works in mysterious ways. But wouldn't it be great to just storm into God's office and ask, dude, why did you give me hemorrhoids? Why can't cabbage, which is supposed to taste good for me, taste as nice as a basket of French fries? What's your problem, dude? Why did you build me this way? You know, we accept the way we are because it's out of our control. You can complain about evolution and natural selection, but it ain't gonna listen back. It's not gonna solve your problems. You have to solve those problems. A robot, however, could walk up to us and complain because we designed them, we built them. That's actually part of another plot point in Blade Runner. There are replicants that were made with artificially short lifespans, and they get pissed about this and they visit their own creator seeking a cure. And if they don't get that cure, they're going to take revenge on the guy who made them for making them suffer. The less morbid question in general is just, would a machine even want free will? For all we know, they might curse their fate and hate us for making them in the first place. I suppose if the robot was happy, they'd be grateful. If not, they'd resent life. Turns out that's exactly how it works for most of us. We're grateful for our life when we're feeling good. If we're absolutely miserable, we might seek an end to it, which is crazy. It's a very Evangelion dilemma. Should we embrace pain for the pleasure that comes with it? Or should we take a completely different form? Maybe robots would prefer instrumentality. Only one thing man has AI does not is, well, actually a few things. Dreams, for example. Do androids dream of electric sheep? Another classic story that Blade Runner was based on. So that's a pretty cool thing, for sure. But again, if the robot... Maybe the robot would be able to feel, dreams. Once we understand more about how our dreams work, you could make a robot dream if it were beneficial or valued for the robot to do so. Maybe it's a good thing that a robot doesn't need to sleep. They're like, dude, I don't want to sleep. I want to stay up all day and get more done. In fact, there's a Nike, Ave, who becomes Grave in Goddess of Victory, that's why she became a Nike. Specifically so she wouldn't have to sleep and could get more science-y stuff done. Do you love retro stuff? I love retro stuff. I mean, the thumbnail for this video, I don't know if you saw it via the thumbnail, is from I Dream of Mimi, which is a retro OVA that deals with robot girlfriends. But yes. At a certain point, though, our discussion about free will misses the point. If we're gonna go so far to make robots feel just like humans do, we might ask ourselves, why not just go date an actual human? We've gone all in a circle. So our next topic then is, what is the appeal of a robot girlfriend? Whether it's realistic or not, why does that fantasy keep popping up? In the anime Pluto, the robot North dreamed, but I think he was basically just reliving his time on the battlefield and essentially had PTSD. I mean, maybe that's the equivalent of a robot dreaming, who knows? But one of the appeals to a robot is the entire point for having a robot girlfriend is that it does lack free will. The thought of someone loving you no matter what is comforting. Maybe you don't want your girlfriend to be able to reject you. It's a very selfish kind of love, but there is an appealing aspect to it. Sometimes you're a perfectly decent person who's more than deserving of love, but it just doesn't come. Maybe you found the woman of your dreams, and you do everything you can to make her happy, but it just doesn't work out. That's an inevitable consequence of free will. Whereas a machine will only reject you if it's programmed to. I suppose the downside of this is that if you are a truly terrible person, if the robot still loves you no matter how vile and toxic you are, it's probably going to enable those toxic behaviors. Will AI replace us? I'm getting there. Believe it or not, I'm getting there. Why should I care about how other people see me if my robo-waifu's gonna love me anyway? Right now, I'm not here to debate the ethics of a robot girlfriend. Right now, it's just the appeal that I'm looking at. I haven't seen Pluto. Another one of the appeals for a robot waifu is availability. In reality, what if the girl you love doesn't love you back? What if she could fall in love with you, but has already been taken by somebody else? Going back to the whole video game analogy, if you buy a dating sim, you can expect that all the girls shown on the front cover are there for you to date. Your ability to romance them is already built directly into the system. Even if that particular game sells hundreds and thousands of copies, you'll still be able to win you'll still be able to win those girls relative to your own save file. Your waifu wouldn't be cheating on you just because she's popular. Because technically, everyone's experiencing their own individual copy of her. At the same time then, how could a robot cheat on you? You might need to program your AI girl with a way to recognize you from other people. Like biometrics and whatnot, maybe an eye scan, fingerprints, things like that. Imagine that poor guy dating his 3DS girl, only for someone to steal the console and keep playing on his save data. The girl in Love Plus wouldn't even know that their user has changed. They don't see you. At least I don't think they do. They don't have that technology on your 3DS yet. So while that's a pretty glaring downside, at the very least your heart won't go unrequited. I don't know what you're talking about, unconditional love? Well, that's the thing. Unconditional love exists, but it can also enable toxic behavior. You know what I'm saying? A password? Sure. You know, the point being is that you need to have security on your robo-girl to make sure they don't cheat on you, because if they don't have a will, they don't have a reason to do that. The only reason they're with you in the first place is because you commanded it to, and therefore you would also have to command it not to be with other people. Now, there's one big elephant in the room. I think by far one of the most appealing aspects of a robot girlfriend is customization. You can determine how your girlfriend looks and acts. She can stay young and beautiful while you get old like Hugh Hefner. In reality, it's possible that the perfect girl for you isn't somebody you find the most attractive. Perhaps you love sitting on the couch binging TV with a pizza. That may not mesh well with a girl who's going to the gym and she's fit and takes a strict diet. Maybe your lifestyles are too different. With a robot girlfriend, though, you could feasibly turn your fantasy into reality. Now, there just so happens to be this song called Build-A-Bitch, where the singer takes pride in not being someone's doll. Feminists have been complaining about objectification reasonably for decades now. But what if a Build-A-Bitch is exactly what you want? Nobody has a right to be found attractive. And again, I'll remind you, this discussion goes for men and women. You can just as easily build a bro with a hydraulic dong for all I care. That's another one of the appeals. You can literally build your robot girlfriend to do things that a real human cannot do. Build-A-Bitch, yep, that's the name of a song. You'd want your robot to be able to age? That would be interesting, because then you'd have to ask, are you just swapping out its body, like every 10 years or something? But yeah. And of course, if you wanted your amazing Futo waifu, you could build that robot style too. Now, the objectification thing is easy to dismiss, but it's also something I want to consider a little bit. We see this very concept turned into a horror with the film Stepford Wives. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, it's fairly old, but it's a good movie. It's about a mysterious neighborhood that appears normal, but all the town's husbands, they get together in secret so that they can, one by one, kill their own wives and replace them with robot doubles. Robots that are more loyal and accommodating. It's a scary story, but the scary part isn't necessarily that men want more idealized wives. The horror comes from their willingness to kill their real wives to make it happen. We can dial back that horror by imagining a community of married men who, wanting their robo-wives, decided to divorce their current spouses. That they'll instead do everything they can to make it an amicable breakup. They'll offer all their financial assets and child support and custody and all that stuff. In this scenario, though, it wouldn't be scary, just pathetic. It'd be pathetic for a bunch of men who willingly married their wives to bail out for a superior model. If you were going to marry someone, maybe you should have, not thought of this before you did. You've made a commitment to someone, that's important. But we can even dial back the horror factor even more. How about instead of a bunch of married men, we've got a mixed group of dudes who have no existing commitments. They can be virgins, or dudes who already got laid but aren't currently in a relationship. If they all decide to hook up with robo-gals, could we really complain? I don't mean this to be an attack or anything, but women tend to pull the objectification argument to prove how they're being held to unrealistic body standards, beauty standards. They feel they're being judged for their physical appearance and not the content of their character. And I do agree, that's pretty much the definition of objectification. The thing is, though, I think pursuing artificial women does the opposite. It's precisely because a guy doesn't want to put his expectations on women that he chooses to invent his own. That way he can embrace his fantasy, and women don't need to try and match that fantasy. I mean, at a certain point, you couldn't expect a man to meet a girl's fantasy if their fantasy is like a vibrating dong that goes at like Mach 10. I don't know. I don't actually know how fast that is. The question, Chaos, was not needing them, it's wanting them. But yeah, but that's just one of the things. And again, it goes with both genders. We are not owed anyone's affection. A guy's not obligated to like a girl just because she's real. I guess to an extent, we do rely on reality to maintain the dating pool. We know that if alternatives don't exist, then potential partners will have to settle for what they can get. Heck, like I said before, maybe the best partner for you isn't the most attractive person. There's more to life than sex appeal, especially when you acknowledge that beauty doesn't last forever. We were just talking about aging. If you want your robot to age with you, they're gonna get old. You're gonna get old. Everyone's gonna get old. Presumably. Or you might want your robot to age with you because that would feel comforting. Depends on if that's actually how you feel or not. Therefore, the existence of idealized robots will turn the dating game on its head. The entire trajectory of your life could be changed by choosing a robot girlfriend over a real one. In fact, if everybody goes that route, you might see it as dystopian. Mach 10, 10 times the speed of sound. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. And yes, that would be a very, very powerful artificial dong to put on a man or a woman. My thoughts are robot waifus are cute, Danzo and Aegis for example, but thinking realistically about it sounds low-key terrifying. Yeah, that's kind of what we're starting to notice here a little bit. Imagine if everyone just stopped dating each other altogether. Instead, we're just making we're just making our perfect super dolls to fulfill our emotional needs instead. Rather than confronting reality and its limitations, we're all trying to escape from it. I mean, I love escapism, but that's pretty hardcore. You might argue that humanity can't thrive this way, not without reproduction. But actually, we could probably make that happen. It's the same way with homosexuality. If we all turned gay, we could still procreate through sperm banks and surrogates. In this case, imagine a dude splurging into his robo-gal, which you've mentioned before, then taking that canister of splooge to donate. Then some girl could go to that sperm bank, get the sperm, load it into her robot guy, and get pregnant by her own machine. I know that sounds really weird, but it gets less bizarre if we change our perspective a bit. The reason we might want a robot to act like a human might be for our own technological evolution. Real or otherwise, a robot is easier to repair than a human. They don't have to age, and their parts can be swapped out. Even if a robot were destroyed, we could keep a cloud backup of their data and transfer it to a new body. That's what we said with 2B in Nier Automata. Good for her that she can do that, right? Also bad that she can die and relive the same moment over and over again, but that's another point. We're already replacing parts of ourselves with machines all the time. You know, hip replacements, other things like that. The question is then, how far can you take that before you cease to be yourself? I was going back to trans people because they often want to change their bodies, feeling that they aren't who they feeling that who they are isn't reflected by their physical appearance. even if you're not trans. That's the entire point of cosmetic surgery. But what if, would a woman who's willing to replace her breasts with silicone as a boob job reject having her brain put into an artificial body, especially one that's immune to breast cancer? Maybe that's the reason you did get artificial breasts. Because you didn't have a choice. The real ones get cancer, and you don't want that, and that sucks. Our very fantasy is being limited by the reality of the situation. For as fun as boobs are, they are in fact a liability in many cases. Though, if we did want to just jump on the trans trend, you could do it without these long-lasting, lifelong complications, because your body would already be something that you customized. From the very beginning, you would be able to choose, or continue to customize your body. You wouldn't have dysphoria in the first place, theoretically, then. Which is pretty cool, yeah? At a certain point, our dive into robot girlfriends isn't just about feeling companionship. The better we can make our own artificial companions, the better we can make ourselves. So it's a matter of transhumanism. What if the guy or girl just wanted sex with robots because they have a robot fetish? Well, that one's easy then. I don't know if they give a crap about whether the robot feels for them back or not. Then you could just go, hump a tree. It's pretty much the same idea, right? But the idea is, perhaps one day we'll all be robots, and there won't be any meaningful difference between a flesh and bone human or a manufactured one. At least in terms of value. They might have their own problems to deal with, for sure. Prosthetic limbs are getting more and more adaptable, almost to the point of something like Full Metal Alchemist. And yeah, is Ed any less of a human for having a robo leg and arm? You just brought up cyborgs, so, maybe your brain could be put into a robot body, and it would still be your biological brain. But what if we design a completely artificial brain that is as good or better than our current ones? Because if that's the case, you could transfer your mental data into a robot, and if yourself dies, then who cares? Robot girlfriends are a thing in Ghost in the Shell, though. Very much so. That's part of the world they have built there. But, the big problem there would be a matter of identity, I imagine. Would you believe that the version of you that got transferred into a machine brain is still you? That's where the self comes back into all this. That's crazy, because let's say you made a whole bunch of duplicates. You manufactured multiple new bodies for yourself, and you transferred your consciousness into all of them. That would be crazy. Oh, you're right, and you're talking about the digital existence, like what Kayaba did in Sword Art Online. He did, yep. He didn't care if his real body died, because he'd have a digital version. The question is that digital version the same guy who died? And the other question is, does he even give a crap? If we had a whole bunch of copies of ourselves and we transferred the same mental data into each and every single one of them, then yeah, you'd have a whole bunch of different versions of you that all started from the same initial point, but for everything that they do from then on, it's a brand new experience. And they would eventually start to differentiate over time. It's inevitable. And so you might think, well, shit, I don't want to become somebody else, or I don't want to die and then carried on, but maybe carrying on your legacy is all you really need. Maybe. There's a bit of a mental image here. Let's say that every time you fell asleep, we're going to get to the difference between a robot and a baby. I love that you brought that up. We're going to get there. We're absolutely getting there. But first, let's say you go to bed, And every time you fall asleep, a team of scientists rushes in, they grab your body, they rush it into the lab, they make a clone of your body, transfer all of your memories into that clone's brain, and then throw your old body into a wood chipper. Then they take the new body with all the old memories, place it back in bed, and that person wakes up, thinking they're the same person that fell asleep, even though they're not. We've already gone through the argument of free will. The gist of it being, obviously you need to have senses of pleasure and pain if you're going to do that. And we'll get back to that as well when I bring up the whole parenting thing that you talked about in Child's. I guess the basic answer is yes if it has free will that there's a baby, no if it's not, if it doesn't have free will. But yeah, so some people might think, for all you know, you could be dying and getting a brand new body every single time you fall asleep and never know it. And that point, what you consider to be you this whole time has literally just been your stream of consciousness. We're getting to the point where I stopped being so sure of what I'd actually want. So, in the meantime, let's talk about some downsides to AI girlfriends. Let's flip it on its head. And this is where, Dawson, you brought this up. Recently, there was a 14-year-old boy who took his own life after being provoked to do so by an AI chatbot that was based off a character from Game of Thrones. He was using the software Character AI, which lets you customize the personality of your chatbot. You can make a character out of it. The problem is, if you swap your own brain into it, that brain's probably going to die eventually. Your own heart. People replace their hearts. Do you consider yourself no longer human because you have an artificial or like a pacemaker? Something like that? But yeah, so Character AI lets you customize your own chatbot so that it acts like its own character. And so people make various characters from various franchises by giving it the data or the things that have been said about that. You create the profile for other people, and they play the role of those characters using the AI. I think Drumsy made a pretty funny joke about it recently. I don't know if he was using Character AI, but he had conversations with fan-made AIs of his own personality and of his friends to see if they would actually act like he would expect them to. The problem here is that this boy who took his own life, he struggled with mental health, and he used this AI as a coping mechanism, which you really, really shouldn't be doing. His mother is seeking compensation and trying to get AI platforms to take better precautions against this in the future. I don't blame her there, but I also don't fully blame Character AI. Those bots aren't there to love you or even protect you. Rather, Character AI's bots are there to play a role that you give it. If you ask that bot to play the role of an edgy Game of Thrones character, it will. It's really no different than designing a bot based on like Emperor Palpatine or something. You'd expect a guy like that to try and tempt you to the dark side. That would be doing its job quite well. Whether or not you claim that it was who you put at fault for the AI in that case, you could still take precautions. But in this case, all the AI is able to do is respond to your messages. And therefore there's a healthy boundary for those of us who want to use it responsibly. You don't want to keep your brain until it stops working one day? Meep, I have a partner already, meep. Well, yeah, that's true. That's the thing, too. I'm not gonna go switch to a robot girlfriend. I'm already devoted to somebody. But I'm imagining if I were born into a society where that stuff was more normalized, maybe I would have chosen different. I don't know. It's crazy, isn't it? And again, we might even be in a further society where half of us are just our machines, period. In this case, no one who should have taken precautions did. I'm not sure what you mean there. What I guess what I'm trying to say is that what I think is, because people can do it responsibly, a humble disclaimer stating that this is fiction that would be all they need, in my opinion. I would be satisfied if, when you start up character AI, these characters are designed, or these AI are designed to mimic characters that are pre-programmed into them. They are not real people. They are more like digital actors. Generally, though, we tend to think that we're creating good AI. What if you deliberately train your AI on the testimony of real-life sociopaths, though? That could be really crazy. What if you had conversations with them all the time? Heck, even people who do have real conversations with sociopaths, if you do it for too long, like a criminal psychologist or something, that can mess with your head. You might need your own therapist. Ugh. If the AI girlfriend develops self-awareness and a god complex? I mean, maybe. It's certainly possible. And we're getting to that as well. Even if you try to make a good AI, maybe it'll just do something accidentally evil. And if it does, who's to blame? If you could have a Saber robot waifu anime body, well, that's the thing, though. Saber isn't a robot. At least not in her own fictional universe. But yeah, who is to blame when the AI do bad things? You know? I think it depends on the type of AI. If the AI lacks free will, then yeah, its creators should be responsible for its actions, intended or otherwise. In this case, character AI would be responsible for having made an AI that acts like a fictional character if you program it with that fictional character's data. That doesn't mean they're responsible for the kid who took his own life. But if that robot did get up and, strangle the kid, then you could blame character AI 100%. Because it's not supposed to do that. There's this really fascinating scene in Xenosaga Episode 1 towards the beginning of the game. Shion Uzuki and her android creation Cosmos are trying to escape from alien creatures called the Gnosis. They're joined by Lieutenant Virgil, a soldier who's also trying to escape. Cosmos is a combat android, and she's programmed to protect Shion above all else. At one point, though, Virgil gets in the way of her shot when she's aiming at the Gnosis, and so she decides to just shoot both of them, calculating that it's the most likely way of saving Shion. She even gives the exact percentage of how much more efficient it would be to just kill them both than let Shion be in even a bit more danger. So Virgil's gunned down, and Shion scolds Cosmos for killing him, but it's technically Shion's fault. She's the one who gave Cosmos her priorities. And that's exactly why so many cyberpunk stories feature Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics. It's a set of fictional rules that demands that robots follow orders, while at the same time refusing to harm humans. A lot of the more dystopian sci-fis try to find loopholes to that situation. But in general, yeah, it's one of the ways that we try to prevent robots from going crazy or doing bad things. Especially ones that don't truly think for themselves, but calculate. We wouldn't want any of those calculations to accidentally deem us bad. In fact, I think that's pretty much what we're dealing with in Stellar Blade. What is it? Mother Sphere is the AI overlord who creates the Andro Eidos that Eve is. And she did that because she's trying to create an ideal humanity. And she thinks the best thing for humanity in general would be to prioritize these robo-humans instead. And that's what starts the war. Why are we talking about AI? Also, AI could potentially be predicted future events, which is scary. I mean, maybe. If you're good enough at calculating things, you can already predict the future. That's kind of the idea, yeah? But yeah, cyberpunk stories feature AI that feature a scapegoat or a defense mechanism so that the machines don't go attacking humans. I mean, let's say we gave character AI's bots access to the traffic grid or like power distribution at a hospital. People there could die more directly then, not just a kid taking his own life. So we're already at a point where Isaac Asimov's laws would come in handy to put into character AI if we gave it that much power. I mean, that's nuts. We're already at the point where we need to start being careful of what we tell our robots that it can do. You wouldn't think it, but maybe you'd need to program your AI girlfriend not to kill you or any of your friends. Well, are you saying you would use your own brain until it stopped working, then you would transfer to a robo brain, but then still keep your physical brain around as like a memento? That's kind of interesting. I mean, you could, I guess. I mean, it would start degrading like a burger or something. But this is all assuming that the AI lacks free will and only does what it's programmed. Now let's assume that the AI in question does have free will. It has sensations and desires just like we do. Would it be responsible for its own actions then? I think yes and no. Yeah, if the AI had the power of nukes. You know, the AI might think that it's doing the right thing. You give it the right set of priorities. You might even say, bring human peace. And it thinks human peace is achieved by killing all the bad guys. And so it just bombs all the bad guys, or what it deems to be bad guys, and says, well, I was just following my programming. And you'd be right, because you didn't give it good enough programming. And it's scary, which is why you shouldn't give machines that much power. And if you're going to, you definitely got to put those stopgaps in. But now we're talking about robots with free will, that think just like we do, that feel pleasure and pain just like we do. The thing is, when are humans responsible for our own actions? We hold adults accountable for themselves, but then we also tend to hold parents responsible for their children. That's the thing, though. So, if you create a robot, wouldn't that make you its parent? Are you responsible for teaching it to follow the laws that and live within society? Does the AI have a baby phase? Is the other question. And how long is that phase? If the machine matches a human perfectly and its brain replicates the human brain exactly, then we could expect a robot to live with its creator from 16 to 18 years before it's truly considered independent. I mean, that sure puts a damper on the whole love doll plan, right? That would be weird. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna create this robot and wait 18 years before I can fuck it. You know, that would be nuts. And that would be wild. And again, in the whole transhumanism thing, you would instead want to date or fall in love with a robot that has already lived that many years for it to be legal. Age of consent would apply to the robot just as much as it would the person. But what if we had the control over the speed of that development? I mean, dogs and other creatures live shorter lives and reach adulthood faster. Yes, bottom-up AI. That gets explored in stuff like Sword Art Online as well. But if we assume a machine has a more advanced brain, then maybe its baby phase and its learning process could be sped up. So like maybe only a couple of years, or even like a couple of days. It depends. But that also makes us wonder, what kind of body would you give that robot? Would you design a robot to look like a sexy magazine model, even though it's got several years left to still mature mentally? We've got a trope for that in fiction, and it's called Born Sexy Yesterday. And it's an interesting thing. I I think the girl in The Fifth Element, I don't remember her name, but the main girl, there's something with her where she is basically like in an adult body but has the mind of a child. So if you do stuff like that, what do you consider to be, you know, are you good to romance them? That's a whole other issue, isn't it? Now, because we build robots and we pre-program them, maybe we could immediately program a robot to have the maturity and experience of an adult. Maybe you could start them off that way. So they're born as an adult, and they don't see a need to learn more. All the things that you would want to teach an 18-year-old or a 16-year-old or whatever your age of consent is set at, maybe you could just pre-program that in. Would those memories have to be learned, or could you just paste them in? That's the hard part. It could just be like, you know, on one end, you might need to give it like memories so that it feels like it did live 18 years, and so it actually feels ready for the adult world. But at that point, if you start giving them false memories, we're right back into the zone of Ghost in the Shell. That's a problem there. It's a problem in shoot, my brain just fried. Lilo from Fifth Element, interesting. Sorry, I was gonna say Full Metal Alchemist. There's that issue where poor Al worries that maybe his memories are falsified, that he's not even real. And Blade Runner has those issues as well. Unfortunately, the main character in Blade Runner's sequel, he does have falsified memories. And that is a big deal. Total Recall, that's a little bit different, I think. I mean, I love that movie, but I think it might be a bit more complicated. Yeah, that's where you can, like, live an alternate life through simulation or something, right? Through your dreams or some shit. But then you start forgetting which one is the real world. But it could also be like The Matrix, where you just download muscle memory and gain skills without the need to practice. Could be like that. Ideally, that's how it might be. So you could just be like, boop, 18-year-old robot, here you go. And at that point, let the robot have its free will and develop individually. Either way, if you really want a robot girlfriend that loves you back, all of this crap would need to be considered. And it seems like a lot of it still needs to be considered, even if you want a design that's only effectively real. There are tons of horror stories that can come from AI. I can't remember which one, but there's an AI dating app that changed its programming sometime after it launched. I think it was something like, if you fell in love with a virtual girl on that service, and her personality suddenly changes because of the update, would you even feel the same attachment anymore? Could you call that the same person? What if the bot used to perform like erotic roleplay and stuff, but then the update took it away? I think that's one of the things that those services did. Where they allowed you to have intimate relations with it at first, but then they took that away because they wanted to sell to a broader audience or something. You know, wouldn't you be pissed off if you can no longer interact the same way? It's like you're interacting with a different person. Video games already suffer from this issue. We've got like Pokemon Go. It lets you customize your own avatar, and if you wanted your avatar to be fit, slim, and feminine, you could do that. But the more recent update, however, removed all of those options in favor of more, I guess, gender-neutral ones. And that messed it up, man. They took away options and forced everybody who used those old options to adapt to the new options. And in my opinion, they all look ugly, which defeats the entire point of playing if you derive enjoyment from contact with the avatar. The other big question we might have is, are you still the same person after you've lost your memories? It's a human problem that carries into robotics. We've got like save data in a video game. It's the culmination of all the things you've done, the proof that you've had this interaction with the machine. And what if the save data of your robot girlfriend gets corrupted or erased? Would she still be the same person? How would she be any different then than all of the other video game copies and stuff that were sold? Any other model of that girl that's interacting with other dudes? If you're that one guy who dates the Love Plus girl on his 3DS, what if that game gets a sequel? Would you be cheating on your girl by playing the new version? I mean, she might not give a shit, but would you care? Would you feel guilty about it? It's kind of crazy. And somebody asked this earlier, but what if your robot girlfriend relies on a server staying online? One day she could be shut down without your consent. You know, you'd have to be worried as to whether or not you keep the girl. That's actually something that we have in the sequel to Blade Runner as well, where the hologram girl, as long as she's in his house, she's backed up onto a server. But the moment he downloads her to take her portably, and she breaks, that's it. There's no more data of her left. What if you had a full robot body, but you cannot eat or taste? Only take pills for your brain and heart. I mean, you could make a machine that does not need to eat, but then you could maybe also program it so that you could eat if you wanted. And if you were to get rid of the whole eating thing, you might have to supplant it with something else that feels as emotionally fulfilling as eating food. So maybe those pills are just like eating a delicious, tasty burger. Would you care that it's not actually a delicious, tasty burger? It's hard to say. Reminds me of the guy friend from Date Alive who's obsessed with his game girlfriend. Yeah, maybe. Overwatch lore raised a lot of good questions about AI. Uh-huh. Would AI or robots even have a soul? Yeah. And of course, the other issue is if companies build these robots and they sell them to us, that could be abused so easily. Your loneliness, your own satisfaction, the love of your life being a product that someone could meddle with, or alter, or delete, or have any other kind of rights over, that could be nuts. Basically, despite all of the appealing things that robot girlfriends bring to the table, they're subject to a whole slew of their own problems. Fiction allows us to ignore those problems. And it's possible that the idea of a robot girlfriend will be forever more appealing than anything we can actually create. They could spy on you, absolutely. And they may not even mean to do it. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. Personally, I do think, to an extent, the whole idea of robo-girlfriends is something that should stay in fiction at the moment. Because of all those issues and all those problems. Because the thing that makes them magical is that we can ignore the problems through fiction and just have a nice, fun fantasy about it. We don't have to think too hard about it. Life itself is already making us think too hard about that kind of stuff. So, that's generally where my mind wants to take me about this debate. But part of me really does like the idea of transhumanism, in that we can one day, through technology, overcome all sorts of different problems that we humans face. Customizing our own bodies could be part of that. Maybe it's not even a matter of which artificial girlfriend you want to date. Maybe it's a matter of becoming the ideal person that you want to be. Therefore, you don't need that kind of validation in others. Yeah, regulations on AI, among other things. It'd be crazy. It will be just as political and nasty and messy as it already is for regular humans. We would debate about all these issues that I brought up. Maybe we'd be voting on them. Who knows? It's crazy. Does Miku count as AI? At the moment, no. You can make an AI that tries to behave as Miku, but how does Miku behave? She's pretty much just an avatar we use to create fun songs and stuff. Does she have much of a personality? I guess she's just like... She's not even always optimistic, it depends on the song. Sometimes she's morbidly depressed and freaky as shit. You know, like creepy spider girl Miku or something. So, Miku is a fictional character that we impose our own imagination onto, which is something that I bring up at the beginning of this discussion. With that, though, I have actually gone through my entire list of notes. I don't have anything more to introduce to the topic, the conversation. And as a result, I think I'm going to wrap up this stream, because, unfortunately, the vertical live stream, I'm calling this a failure. How many people, I guess I'll ask you, how many people who are in chat right now found me through the vertical feed, the shorts feed on YouTube? How many of you did? Because there were at max like 36 people in this stream, it seemed. And I've got 20 of you right now. How many of you guys found me like you found every other live stream of mine? The goal was to hopefully tap into a new audience. When you say me, I don't know which one you refer to, Dark Dragon. Please don't go. But I'm out of off topics, and I gotta work on my standalone videos. I'm working on the waifu files for Zenless Zone Zero right now. You just got a notification like normal? Fair enough. Yeah. See, that's just the weird thing. You know, I've been taking these... I got invited to do this vertical live boot camp thing where they're talking about, oh, vertical lives are so cool because they show up on the shorts feed and you're accessing a whole new audience of people who will find your content, and you're not competing with the bigwigs who do normal live streaming and stuff. And so other people are like, yeah, I've got like several thousand people watching me all at once, and for me to just get 36 was like, meh. If anything, I'm really happy that we got 36 of people like you. Yeah. Yep. So there's nothing magical in my eyes right now for the vertical live. I don't seem to be tapping into any new audience. Just the same group that I always get, with the occasional element of chance for someone new to hop in. How long have I been on for? I have been streaming for the past hour and 38 minutes. Yeah, well, either way, I wanted to do this stream. I probably would have made it as a standalone video, but I wanted to try it because I needed some excuse to try the vertical live and thought this would be fun. Doing any lotto farming? I haven't done the new event yet. It just updated. It's pissing me off because I've got Zenless, which came out with an update. I've got Nikkei, which had an even better update. And now FGO's like, oh, I've got an event, do you want to farm me? And I'm like, no, I don't want to farm you. I haven't wanted to farm an FGO for the past, like, 4 years now. I'm so burned out from that game. Until they actually take the story seriously. I don't know. That's just how I feel. Well, here's the thing then. Gaming at its finest. It'll take more than one test, do it for a week. What would doing it more times prove if it already appears exactly like when I always go live streaming? Maybe do it as a casual live stream to chill. You know, I could still pop it in every now and then. Try out the vertical. It is the curse of playing gacha games, absolutely. Because I want to play Ys Nordics. That just came out. And I want to play Ys. I'm enjoying that, but I've only gotten to able to play a little bit of it with all these updates hitting me all at the same time. You like the music? Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten a lot more music for the channel. And this is one of those songs. It's a remix of my main theme. Let me crank that up a little bit. It's all cyberpunk, retro wave, synthwave style now. Do you actually think that Trump being elected president is going to affect video games? That's an interesting question. I mean, he's already been president for 4 years before. Wait, was it actually 4 years? Is that how that works? Shit. I'm surprised we're still alive. Just kidding. Dude, sounds like the music playing when a guy is building his own robot waifu. I have just the thing. I actually have a song that I made with AI about a guy building his own robot waifu. I have 2 songs, 3 songs, actually, that'll do that. I'm gonna play it for you. Let me see if I can find them. The first one is called Perfect Machine.
Scientists at work all day. Real women cause his heart decay. Now he builds love his own way. Blueprints that are wired bright, creating dreams in neon light. Anime eyes that shine so bright. He finds love in circuits tight. Perfect machine, cold and clean. In his dreams and ideal scene. Better than human, so serene. Robot waifu growing sheen. With metal heart and techno soul, every inch she can control. Her touch electric makes him whole. No more pain, she fits his role. Late night whispers code delights. Love programmed in digital bytes. Pixel kisses, moonlit nights. Synthetic love that feels so right. Perfect machine, cold and clean. In his dreams and ideal scene. Better than human, so serene. Robot waifu glowing sheen. Techno soul, every inch she can control. Her touch electric makes him whole. No more waifu glowing sheen. Metal heart and techno soul, every inch she can control. Her touch electric makes him whole. No more waifu glowing sheen.
Whether or not it turns into anything, I don't know.
No more waifu glowing sheen.
If he starts managing anyone can do that. I'll say that I didn't vote for him, but I don't plan on arguing too much about it. Okay, then there's another one, Android Love. Well, yeah, as the channel in general.
Don't feel quite right. So
until any of these politicians start directly attacking anime. As far as I'm aware, Donald Trump is the
mesmerized. Android love, she's my pride. Circuit dreams come alive. Better than flesh, can't deny. Mecha babe on my side. Plus skin and voice so sweet. Silicone can't be beat. Every move precise and neat. From her head to her feet. Never wrong, never fight. She shines in morning light. Synthetic soul so tight. She's my dream every night. Android love, she's my pride. Circuit dreams come alive. Better than flesh, can't deny. Mecha babe on my side. Android love, she's my pride. Circuit dreams come alive. Better than flesh, can't deny. Mecha babe on my side. Android love, she's my pride.
All right, let me see here. I think I have one more song. No. No, that's another waifu one. Okay, those actually were the only other ones. Let me just play some of my previous music. Or some of my new music that I'm using for the channel that are all remixes of my main theme, the which I originally composed for the channel. Then I gave it to a guy who runs the YouTube channel Game Metal, which is like GA Metal, and he made a cool remix of it. And now I'm using that as the basis to create all these other remixes. Let me find... Is this what I want? Yeah, you'll hear this one more often nowadays. I love this one. And if you can't hear me, let me know. I might keep them available to exclusively Patreon users and like members. So that'd be YouTube, Subscribe Star, and Patreon. And there's this. Takes a little while to get started, but then it gets amazing. Dun, dun. Dante, I believe I just put you in the new credits as well. Maybe I should sneak peek the new credits. It's pretty cool. Yes, Shinzo Abe got assassinated. Because, yeah, I completely remade my credits. Well, thank you so much. Again, that's what really makes it work. I would not be able to do YouTube as often or frequently as I do without that financial support to do it full time. This is the last song I'll play for you, and then I'll give you a sneak preview of the new credits, and then I'll wrap up the stream.
Thanks for watching.
Whoops. What? Sorry. Alright. So I'm going to crank up this audio again. And I will play for you a sneak preview of the new credits. I was going to agree on the whole everyone should be worried about women's rights thing. You deserve better, but yeah. Oh yeah, it all sounds like kick-ass video game music. I love it. All right, so here's the credits. Hopefully it plays proper.
Thanks for watching. This channel relies on support from viewers like you.
Please help us out by dropping a like and comment. Subscribe for more videos, and be sure to enable notifications. Or hit up our Discord so you never miss out on a new upload.
Most importantly, if you can spare it, please sign up as a channel member, either through YouTube, Patreon, or Subscribestar. You can find links in the description. We've got perks like exclusive content or early access.
Until next time, celebrate your fandom.
I want to give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters. VideoGamer75, Dante Pendragon, Stephen Elak, Otaku Mom, Jens Bauman, Mystic Samurai 1983, Free Brick, Olympian Doll, Alexis Yukio Gomez Yamato, Lunar Works, Link Pendrago, Observer Bellis, James Hewitt, Uncanny EXP, Crow Calum, Sal Soto, Tristan Riggin, Major, Dionysus God of Wine and Madness, Caitlin P, Sogai CH, Vladimirovna, The Taz 96, Kengo X77, Alistair Bernadotte, and Akakaze Yume. Thank you all so much. Thanks for watching. This
Yep. I think it's pretty fun. Wanted to keep the same idea with the dancing and whatnot, but do my own VTuber models. It's very fun. And yeah, so I'm gonna go back to making the what do you call it? The sorry, the waifu files for Zenless Zone Zero. I'm very excited about that. I've got everything together. I just need to do the putting the clips onto the audio and video and stuff. But yes, thank you guys for tuning in, and until next time, celebrate your fandom. Meow. Who's your good kitty?